Welcome to the Bougie Coop, the podcast for backyard chicken keepers with tight spaces, big dreams, and a flair for the fabulous. I'm your host, Lisa Ronsky, and every episode we'll talk about all the quirky adventures of raising backyard birds with a bougie twist. I'll just say it up front, I'm proudly one of those crazy chicken ladies. When I brought home my first chicks, I had no idea how much they changed my life. These incredible birds have brought me so much joy, connection, and honestly, a whole lot of healing. So whether you're a seasoned hen tender or still daydreaming about your first coop, you're in the right place. This podcast is your comfortable, slightly chaotic guide to small space chicken keeping. So fluff those feathers, pour yourself something sparkly, and let's dive in. The Bougie Coop is proudly sponsored by Eden Feeds. Eden Feeds is a Montana-based company that was started in 2018. The founders were looking for high-quality, non-GMO feed that didn't break the bank. Unable to find what they wanted, they decided to make it themselves. Good stuff in means good stuff out, and Eden Feeds uses only locally sourced, Montana-grown grains in all of their formulas. It's a high-quality product at a great price point. My girls love it, and I know yours will too. Eden Feeds is available in the western U.S. at Murdoch's Ranch stores and plenty of smaller local feed shops too. Check out EdenFeeds.com to find a location near you. Today's episode is all about feeding your flock. But before we get into it, let's take a little look back at how feeding chickens has evolved. For most of history, chickens were left to fend for themselves. They foraged around the farm for bugs, grains, grasses, and whatever else they could find, even picking through garbage piles or other animals' droppings. Occasionally, they'd get kitchen scraps, but that was more of a treat than a staple. It worked fine for small flocks since there wasn't much competition for food, but it also was kind of hit or miss when it came to the quality and quantity of food available. This eat-what-you-find approach also meant hens laid more when food was plentiful and slowed down in leaner seasons. It makes sense. Laying eggs is hard work and takes a lot of nutrients. Less food in means fewer eggs out or a shortened lifespan. In the late 1800s, chickens got a big image boost thanks to Queen Victoria of England, who adored them. Suddenly, chicken breeding became all the rage in England, and many of our favorite breeds, like the Orpington and the Sussex, were developed during that time. Even with that rise in popularity, it wasn't until the early 1900s that people began to understand nutrition and vitamins well enough to start creating formulated poultry diets. As farming became more commercial, profit drove innovation. Feeds were designed to be affordable, complete, and easy to feed to large flocks. In the 1920s and 30s, pelleted feeds came along. These made it harder for chickens to pick out the good stuff and ensured every bite had balanced nutrition. After World War II, backyard chickens almost disappeared in Western countries. People were moving to cities and suburbs, buying their food from grocery stores, and raising your own chickens became old-fashioned. Commercial farms took over and focused on efficiency, raising birds that grew fast and produced the most eggs, not necessarily the healthiest ones. That mindset lasted until the 1970s, when people started to care more about where their food came from and how animals were raised. There had always been smaller flocks of chickens kept in more rural areas all this time, but it wasn't until the 1990s that backyard chicken keeping in more urban and suburban areas really started to make a comeback. With that came a new interest in feeding better quality nutrition. Backyard keepers wanted clean, wholesome food, no chemicals, no GMOs, and for many, that also meant organically grown ingredients. Corn and soy started getting a bad rap. Corn for being a cheap filler, soy for its potential hormone effects. There's a lot of debate about both, and I'm not getting into that here. You need to do your own research and decide what works for you. Personally, I avoid soy altogether, though I do see the value in giving corn as a winter treat. Up until the early 2000s, most feeds weren't made with chicken longevity or ingredient quality in mind. They were designed for big operations, not backyard pets. If you wanted organic or non-GMO feed, you basically had to grow it yourself. Thankfully, that's changed. Today, we have so many great options, from non-GMO and organic blends to soy-free and corn-free formulations. It's never been easier to feed your flock the way you want to. As responsible chicken keepers, we all want to make sure our birds are getting the best care, and that starts with a solid nutrition plan. Think of it like a chicken food pyramid. The foundation is always a good, balanced feed. The pyramid looks like this. The largest amount you will feed your flock will be the base of the pyramid. This will be a good layer feed if your girls are laying, or a good starter grower feed for your younger birds. The second tier of the pyramid is fruits and veggies. You want mainly green leafy veggies like kale, spinach, etc. The top of the pyramid is the smallest part, which means things in this section should only be fed in small amounts, and this is where healthy treats come in like grubs and mealworms. Scratch is also here, and these items can change with the seasons. For example, scratch is a great treat during the winter because it contains corn, which is full of easily digested carbs. It is very important to feed to the youngest age of your flock, which means if you have birds under 20 weeks or so in your flock, you should be feeding a grower feed that contains the nutrients they require. If you have layers in your flock as well, they should always have supplemental calcium available. Laying birds eating a grower feed for a few weeks won't be an issue as long as they have calcium available, but younger growing birds eating a layer feed will get too much calcium and not enough protein to grow properly. Let's start with chicks. From hatch to around 20 weeks, feed a high-quality starter grower feed. It's formulated to give chicks everything they need, the right balance of protein, vitamins, and minerals, with no guesswork. It's also ground into smaller bits for easy eating and digestion. And don't forget chick-sized grit so they can regulate what they need. I give my chicks grit from the moment I put them in the brooder. Many starter grower feeds also contain some grit, but I always supplement with more so my chicks can decide what they need. I have found it helps them digest their food better and is helpful when it comes to preventing pasty butt. Once your flock hits about 20 weeks, it's time to switch to a layer feed because their nutritional needs shift when they start to prepare to lay and when they are actively laying. Producing eggs uses a lot of calcium, and your birds aren't growing as crazy fast as they were before, so they need a little less protein. Even though a good layer feed contains calcium, make sure they also have constant access to a calcium supplement as well as a larger grit. Some chickens just need more calcium, especially production hybrid layers like black stars and the like, because they lay so often. As a rule, a calcium supplement should always be available for your birds year-round. If you have roosters, you'll hear people suggest switching to an all-flock feed since layer feed has more calcium. My take? The risk of your girls not getting enough calcium is greater than the risk of too much for your roosters. So personally, I would stick with layer feed, but do your research and decide what feels right for your flock. Let's talk feed types. You'll see pellets and crumbles out there. Those are highly processed. They're made by grinding, steaming, and drying grains, which can strip nutrients that later have to be added back in. It's fine nutrition-wise and going to supply your girls with what they need. Chickens who pick through their feed and only eat the stuff they like, pellets ensure they are getting balanced nutrition. The other option is mash. It's a blend of whole grains and contains either a powdered form of vitamins and minerals or small flakes or pellets of vitamins and minerals are added. I personally prefer feeding mash. It's like the difference between canned or homemade soup. One is just going to taste better. The downside of mash is that chickens are going to chicken and some will pick through the mash to only eat what they like, which can be wasteful. That's why I ferment my feed. That makes it harder for them to pick through it, but I also always give my girls the choice of dry mash as well. Some folks mix up their own feed. That's great if you know what you're doing, but the risk is that your birds won't get the proper nutrients in the proper amounts. If your flock has acres of fields and woods to free range, mixing up your own feed will probably work for you. But for birds who are in small yards, who can't free range, or who only get a little bit of free range time in a manicured suburban yard, mixing your own feed is probably not a good idea. Stick with the pre-made feed options. And please, let's bust the myth that chickens are garbage disposals. They are not. Yes, they can have kitchen scraps, but you should be selective. No fast food, sugary junk, or greasy leftovers. Those can cause fatty liver disease and other issues. 1 or 2 French fries isn't going to kill them, but they shouldn't be eating them every day. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. Feed well, and your birds will reward you with healthy eggs, meat, and longevity. Plus, feeding them well usually means you're eating better too. It's a win-win. Can they have treats? Absolutely. Should they have treats? Absolutely. They're great for bonding and supplying some extra protein when your hens need it. Just keep them healthy, like mealworms or dried black soldier fly larvae. Be mindful of the source of these. Cheap imports can come from questionable conditions and you have no idea what they were raised on. I always buy high-quality BSF from trusted suppliers. My chickens can taste the difference and will always pick the BSF raised in the U.S. over the imported stuff when given the choice. As for how much to feed, a good rule of thumb is if you have 6 chickens, they should have a half a cup divided between them per day. 12 chickens will get a full cup divided, and so on. Fruits are great treats too, but should be fed in moderation. Some fruits are very high in sugar, and too much sugar is not good for your chicken's gut health. And gut health is really important to keep your girls healthy. Veggies, always welcome, but those from the nightshade families, such as tomatoes, eggplant, potatoes, and peppers, should only be fed when fully ripened or cooked. Nightshade vegetables contain solanine, an alkaloid that functions as a natural insect repellent, and it can be toxic to your birds. As these plants grow and ripen, the vegetables themselves contain less solanine, becoming low enough to not cause problems. However, never feed your chickens any of the greenery from these plants, as the levels in the stems and leaves does not decrease, and if you decide to feed potatoes, make sure those are cooked. Raw potatoes, especially green tinged, are a big no. During molting or in really hot weather, your girls will also need extra protein. Offer BSF larvae, scrambled eggs, hold the butter, or even switch to a higher protein feed during those times. There are a lot of options out there. And finally, feed the best quality you can afford. No judgment here, but as a vet tech, I understand that not everyone is able to pay for feed for their animals that cost more than the food for their own families. We all have bills to pay, and we do the best we can. All commercial feeds will cover the basics, but ingredient quality varies. It depends on what is important to you and what your goals are as a chicken keeper. I may be bougie, but I don't want to spend money to spend it. We all just want to do what's best for our flock and should not be judged or judge others for the choices made, as long as our flock is healthy and happy. Thanks for listening. Please share my podcast with anyone you think would like to take a listen, and always remember the golden rule of the bougie coop. Function comes first, but beauty should never be optional. Got questions? Hit me up at thebougiecoop@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow The Bougie Coop on Instagram and TikTok for more behind the scenes and chicken glam shots. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, stay bougie.